Hey, what's up YouTube? Walt's Reef here. I'm going to show you how I test for phosphate, and in my opinion this is the best phosphate tester on the market as of when this video is made. You know, there's other ones out there. This isn't the cheapest, but in my opinion it's the best for hobby grade and best value, the one I like the most. And I'm just going to show you how to do it. It's probably one of the most common. It is the Hanna Checker. You want to make sure you get the ULR ultra low reading PPM. Then you don't have to do any conversion. Most of the stuff and reading you're going to find out there, it's all going to be based on parts per million. I'm going to show you how I do it. I know some of this is going to be overkill and not necessary, but it's a hobby grade test kit. The test is only good as the tester, so I do go above and beyond and do some steps that you don't have to do, but I think, you know, if you want accurate, consistent readings, it's important to do it. So first thing is, I have my test vial, and when I got done last time I rinsed it with RO water and I let it air dry, but right now I'm going to rinse it with some tank water. And the reason I do that, in case, you know, there was anything left over that precipitated out when it dried, I don't want to get an inaccurate reading. I fill this all the way up, dump the water in there, then I take my cap, put it on, give it a quick shake, dump this in the sink. I go right up to the line, 10 millimeters. Okay, so the next step is I take a cloth made for cleaning glass, you know, like eyeglasses, and I wrap my test vial in it. Now the lid goes on a certain way. The way I screw the lid, I just grab tight with this hand and spin it. So I get all the glass, try to apply pressure top to bottom on all the glass. And I just spin it, I'm just tightening the lid a little bit and try to get it super clear, you know, make sure there's no oils from my hand or fingerprint marks. And then whenever I deal with it from the lid. So then you turn this guy on, give it a sec till it says CO1, pop it open, grab by the lid, put it in, shut all the way. I like to keep it level. It's reading the glass, it's reading the clarity of the water. Spinning it, having it on the side, an air bubble might get down, might affect the reading. Just hit the button, give it a minute, it's going to read the glass. It's going to read the water. It's going to get a base reading. While it's doing that, I'm going to take one of these testers. Now, it took me a minute to actually figure out how to do these correctly. Actually, you know, there's arrow marks for your scissors on there. So I grab in the corner there, and then I give it a little shake. And try to get all of the stuff down in here, all of the powder. And then I literally just cut right on the line. And then what you're actually going to do is you're going to grab the corners, and you're going to pinch and have both of them come out like that. And then on one side I make sure I make a nice little crease so it's ready to pour out. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I have a nice crease right there. Then you take your tester and you're going to pour all of it in. And I kind of give it a couple little jolts, make sure it's all gone, toss this in the trash, put the cap on. And now, what's really important with this is timing, okay? There is a reason they want you to shake it 2 minutes and not 90 seconds, not 3 minutes, 2 minutes. So I go to my watch, I put on 2-minute timer, and I shake for 2 minutes. You can see a bunch of micro bubbles, and sometimes they stick to the glass. So I like to give it a couple taps, just to help bring those bubbles to the top so it gets a good reading. I believe that's why you give it a 3-minute rest when you put it back in. Take my cloth again, wrap it around, same steps as before, spin it in a way that only tightens the cap. Make sure that glass is nice and clean, put it back in there, and then here's something that's really important. Start a 3-minute timer, hold this button down, and you hold it down until you see 3 happen, then you let go. Keep it level and flat, and then you just wait 3 minutes. What's really important is putting that 3-minute timer on, because I can't tell you before I did that how many times I would come back and this would just be off, because it's going to show the reading after 3 minutes, and then I don't know how long, maybe a couple minutes after that, it turns off, and then you're starting all over. So my timer's going off, so I got a reading of 0.03. Right when I'm done, I want to get this ready for the next test, and basically I just want to rinse it. So I empty out what's in there, and then I, with RO water, rinse this out, and then I leave the cap off and let it air dry. I'm going to tell you the most important part of this entire test, and that is to write down the results. Doesn't matter if you do it on the notes on your phone, on an actual piece of paper, in your calendar that you use, like maybe Google Calendar, email it to yourself. Obviously, if you have an Apex, that is going to be the best place to put it because you can chart it over time. You can compare your phosphate readings to other things like the pH in your tank or whatever you want to link it to see if there's any kind of correlation. But absolutely 100%, in my opinion, the most important part is tracking it and writing it down. Okay, so you might be wondering, what do you want your phosphate readings to be? Again, that is a really complicated question, and unfortunately there's not a direct answer. You don't want it at 0, and it's really hard to say what the top number is. I don't think you want it over 2. If you're running at 2 and things are working though, I wouldn't be surprised. Every tank is different, but I do know that when you're first starting your tank, you want it low. I would say between 0.03, 0.08. Try to keep it in that range, because if you get too much phosphate, you're going to have an algae outbreak and your tank is going to get overran with algae. Now, if your tank is established and let's say, 2 or 3 years old, it's okay because your tank has been colonized with other life forms, so that algae doesn't have anywhere to colonize or to take over, so it's going to tolerate a higher phosphate level. You could even argue some of the living organisms in your systems that have already colonized it, whether it's coral or coralline algae or different bacteria and stuff, are going to thrive by having food to eat. So it's a really complicated, difficult question to answer. So I would say have it below 2. I don't really know many people, or haven't heard many people saying over 2 is beneficial, and have it above 0.01 if you're doing like an ultra low nutrient. And even then, it's probably better to have it a little bit higher because some of those corals are probably going to color up a little bit better. But again, I've seen tanks and people that have 0.01 and have the most beautiful acropora, so it's just different for every single system. So one last thing is, you don't want to feed and then test. So if you feed your fish and then 10 minutes later you test, you're going to get a high phosphate reading because there's stuff in the water. If you feed twice a day, I would test before you feed in the morning. If you feed once a day, I would test before you feed, just so you can have consistency.